Hello everyone, it's me, One Gamer 54 back in video. Today we are going to continue off with the crossover event. And today we're going to be talking about the man in room 1280. So in case you guys don't know, and I think that's understandable because oh boy, have I not been consistent with this series. Essentially, this is me talking about the stories of Fazbear, Frights, and Tales from the Pizzaplex. This is where we analyze them, what we can get from these stories, and all that. So we are basically now be tackling the man in room 1280, which is essentially the third story of Fazbear Frights Volume 5, Bunny Call. So I feel like there's not really much to discuss. We're just gonna analyze this story. If you guys wanted to know how the story went, the link is into the second channel. That's where I made read throughs of this story. But with that being said, let's get to it, shall we? No more wasting time. So, what is the plot of The Man in Room 1280? Well, the plot goes like this. Three nurses watch from the window from the room 1280 as Arthur Black, a priest, approaches Heracles Hospital. He's called to the hospital to visit a patient in room 1280 who is in dire state. As a priest, Arthur is very religious and believes fate and hope can always be found even in the darkest of days and places. When he reached the entrance, he come across a new nurse named Mia, who is rather nervous about starting her new job. She asks Arthur what the symbolism behind this Superus statue on Praetorial's ceiling is, and he himself is unsure, although he questions if the hospital is a good or good and evil. He still carries on with his job. Arthur gives the dying their last rites, and he explains to Mia that instead of letting fear take people away, he steps in and gives them peace before they die, which he views as a tradition. Once inside, Arthur is led down a wide and long hall by the head nurse, Nurse Eckerman. She explains that the patient was taken off life support years ago, but is somehow still alive. And whenever Arthur tries to ask questions or to be hopeful, he is yelled at and mocked. Arthur enters the room and finds a horrifically burnt man with cracked, translucent skin, visible function organs, no face, and no working veins that soak the bed in blood. Nurse Neckerman explained that he was having horrible nightmares, Arthur notices, making her smile. She briefly leaves, and in time, Arthur takes in the sight of the man and suddenly feels ice cold on his back. Nurse Neckerman returns and reveals that she, Nurse Thomas, and Nurse Colton are certain there is evil inside the man. She explains that there are two distinct electromagnetic signals in his brain, which Nurse believes means that there are two souls inside of him fighting for control. Despite all this, Arthur tries to see the good in the man. And trust me, the man, let's just say, ooh boy. Anyways, later the nurses test Mia by taking about the man and Arthur while she eats lunch. Having already disliked Nurse Neckerman and Nurse Thomas, she eavesdrops on it instead of joining the conversation, and the nurse decides to leave her out of it. Over the next 3 hours, Arthur assures himself that there is good keeping the man alive instead of evil. They eventually realizes the man can hear him as a monitor's beep in response for his words. After a silent prayer, Arthur watches as the man's hands move to spell out letters. He sees this as an incredible breakthrough, but Nurse Neckerman is disgusted. When Nurse Neckerman returns with Nurse Thomas and Nurse Colton, the man has already spelled out Fazbear. Arthur decodes it that he wants to go to the distribution center, and Nurse Thomas accidentally revealed the rest of Fazbear Entertainment. Using the monitor's beep, Arthur learns that the man wants to go there. The nurse refused to let him leave. And when they say he's going to hell, the monitors go crazy. So already the plot's thickening because these nurses, I'm not gonna lie, I dislike Nurse Neckerman the most, but yeah, the next part is what they do next is crazy, so buckle up. Arthur continues praying with the man for the next 3 hours and spent another hour trying to speak to the emissions to learn more about the man and why he may want to go to Fazbear Entertainment Distribution Center before he dies. They find nothing. He's repeatedly told that he will never get permission to take the man there, but he is certain he'll find a way. As Arthur is leaving, he come across Mia again. She tells him about her day and they ask if she believes in evil, if there's evil in the hospital, and if he spent a day with a man in the hospice wing. Arthur is confused and answers yes to all of them. But before Mia can explain why she's asking, her boyfriend arrives. As Arthur mentally prepares himself for the battle ahead, he hopes he's on the right side of it. The next day, Mia shows a shadow go in the storage room. But when she goes to investigate, she overhears her fellow nurses inside planning to kill the patient. Mia steps away and sees the little boy in curly black hair and rosy cheeks wearing an alligator mask and flashing a devilish grin. She has seen him the day before and felt equally scared him both times. The boy runs away. When Mia looks back, he's gone. 2 days later, Nurse Neckerman acquires a large amount of morphine and tries to inject enough in the man to kill him, but the little boy interrupts her, and when he runs away, she's reminded of the day her son died. She tries to go back into injecting the morphine, but the child-sized shadow flashes by, and all the vials were thrown on the bed, scattering. All the nurses admit seeing the little boy, and the next day more people report seeing him. Nurse Thomas decides to suffocate the man with a pillow. The pillow's filled with blood and sticky green fluid, but the shadow tears it away from her and recaptures it, sending the contents flying all over the room and her. Ew. That was my first time reading that, and I had to say, ew. Multiple sightings of the little boy results in the police being called to find him, but every time they go in, it's gone. Mia suggests that Arthur should take the chaos to his advantage and bug the staff. Meanwhile, the nurse comes to the conclusion that the shadow is an extension of whatever's inside the man, and the next day, Nurse Colton approaches room 1280 with a plan. She sets down candles around the room and uses it to keep the shadow away as she tries to give the man an air emplacement. It fails, however, with the shady sweep Nurse Norton Serene out her hand before launching it into her throat. She quickly pulls it out, but it snatches away again and she surrenders. The syringe falls to the floor and a gust of wind blows the candles out. Nurse Colton hears the giggles and runs into Mia, who points in the direction of the little boy ran. She decides to show Mia the man. Upon seeing him, Mia thinks back to the conversation she heard about evil and extermination, and she begins to understand her fellow nurses. Mia's plans work, and despite how awful it made Arthur feel, he gets permission to take the man to the Fazbear Entertainment Distribution Center if he signed a ton of paperwork absolving the hospital from any responsibilities for whatever might happen from the trip. As he's heading towards the hospital, he spots the little boy peeking his head out from behind the Cerberus statue. While speaking to the hospital's head authority, Arthur worries about something gone wrong, but uses his faith to convince himself that he and the man are being watched over. Mia pulls Arthur aside and attempts to talk him out of taking the man. Arthur tells Mia that he should be pessimistic due to the horrors and evil he has seen, but he chooses not to let the past color his present. Knowing he isn't changing his mind, Mia and Arthur hug and said goodbye. The man is put in a wheelchair, and Arthur decides to drive him to Fazbear Entertainment Distribution Center. Arthur begins to doubt bringing the man, but he still pushes on and takes him inside the building. Once he does, however, the man starts to violently convulse. Blood and tissue begins to spew and the man's collapse. Arthur tries to pray, but the man begins barfing. Then he explodes, spraying black blood and a tar-like substance. Whatever is left of the man falls out of the wheelchair, and Arthur fears something running towards the shelf area. Arthur finds a trail of small footprints engraved in the man's body and fluids. The man comes in asking if everything's okay. Arthur, for the first time in his life, believes it is not. And that was the man in room 1280. I have to say, the story was interesting to say the least. It wasn't really that much action packed, but the suspense about this kid, it just it puts you in the drive of the seat, man. Like it's like you have no idea what's going on. Like, and plus, as you read it along, you kind of understand who this guy is. If you've been an active FNAF fan, this man clearly has to be William Afton. But I will say that this is the first story in Fazbear Frights series the Fazbear Fright series, where no animatronics is included as the main antagonist. Instead, it's the ghost of a child who's revealed to be Andrew from the epilogues. So let's just talk about Andrew, and this is where, you know, this is where we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, past the books. I have already read them all, but I haven't uploaded them yet at all. So, you know, if you want to get off the video here, then thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. But for those who dare want to get to spoilers, you have been warned. But anyways, I will say Andrew in this story is described to have a curly black hair similar to the corpse of the child Devin saw and when his arm got stuck in Fredbear's jaw at the end of The New Kid. A story we, made a lengthy read through. Go ahead and check it out on the second channel. Strangely, the nurse had no clue what the man's name was, due to his DNA not matching any other samples in the database. There also weren't any records of his family. This story is the first of two direct prequels to the Stitch Ray, the second one being The Real Jake, a story, again, that we made a read-through about. And this story is now the sixth story connected to the Stitch Ray saga, is what I like to call it. And yes, you heard me right, this is the sixth story that is connected to the Stitch Ray. If I'm checking my notes, the other stories that are basically connected to the Stitch Rave includes To Be Beautiful, Out of Stock, The Real Jake, 1:35 a.m., and Fetch. All stories that I have done in my second channel. So again, if you guys want to hear the read through of all of that, links to the second channel, and a playlist for the read through. In the fourth epilogue, Andrew says he was responsible for the patient's seamless immortality, and he was the one who made him explode at the end of the story. Andrew also possessed the Stitch Rave along with Jake. In the sixth epilogue, the patient's ghost returned and is revealed to be William Afton. It's revealed that up until this point, Afton's soul was hiding inside the Stitch Rave and was responsible for the deadly shocks. Andrew also escapes from the Stitch Ray animatronic. And in the epilogue in Book 10, Detective Larson sees the patient in one of his hallucinations, where it's implied that Eleanor was actually the one who kept the man from dying. In that epilogue, it also hinted that Eleanor was the second entity inside Afton's brain. This would explain the evil that has been mentioned in the story description and by the three nurses in said story. And, she was feeding on both William Afton's and Andrew's agony. So, take that as you will. I mean, I told you, if you guys didn't know this, you should have waited. You should have not seen the spoilers, but here we are now. Andrew wears an alligator mask and can be connected to the child in Happiest Day, where one of the kids was wearing a green mask that resembles an alligator. Now, personally, I thought that was, a happy frog. I thought, the Happiest Game minigame was just showing us the mediocre melodies and all that. And speaking of the Happiest Day, do expect on the third channel that I'm going to make a video about that. All I'm just going to say is that the third channel is going to have a long, long catalog of FNAF-related content coming for the next few weeks. So be on the lookout for that, and, be sure you subscribe to the third channel if you think that's up your alley. But, yeah. I have to say that The Man in Room 1280 was pretty good. Pretty good. And yeah. Well, guys, that's going to be the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're planning to I'm trying to get this, series done by year's end. I need to catch up a lot, to be honest. And I hope we get done with the crossover event between this channel and the second channel, because how long has Fazbear Frights been out? And how long have I been reading Fazbear Frights? I mean, holy, I need to get this series done. But anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like the videos and you guys enjoy. Subscribe to this channel as well as the other two channels that I described. Subscribe to the second channel. That's going to be in the link in the description box below. So that way, if read-throughs you'd like to hear, there's going to be read-throughs of Fazbear, Frights, and Tales in the Pizzaplex. And, because the next episode of, the next episode is going to be for Fazbear Frights, it's going to be Blackbird. So if you want to have an analysis of Blackbird, that's going to be on the second channel. And subscribe to the third channel if you're excited for some FNAF content coming away. I'm pretty sure I'll have a Fury be ready on that channel very soon in the weekend. But anyways, guys, this is Juan Gamer 54 signing off.